welcome back. So, we're going to start today's episode by ringing the singing bowls. Just want us to take some time for gratitude today, for the present moment, for everything that we have, everything we're living through, everything we've been through. So, wherever you are, close your eyes. And when you hear the sound of the bowl, just take a deep breath in and give yourself a little gratitude. Give yourself a moment of peace. Let's begin. Breathe in. Just want to alert the body, create the vibration in the room. Breathe in. And one last time, we're going to breathe in. And when you release on that last breath, sigh out. I hope that felt as good for you as it did for me. I'm getting a little bit of downtime today as the babies are both asleep at the same time. Because I never know how much time I have, I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short. So today we're going to discuss loneliness and how my loneliness led me to enlightenment. So when you go on a spiritual journey, I feel like I start all those. When you go on a spiritual journey, that's what we're here to talk about though. When you start opening your eyes to the reality that you're living in, the things that you've been through in your past, the past lives you may have led, where you are now, you start to come to these realizations and your reality around you begins to collapse piece by piece, little by little. It doesn't all happen at once unless you're going on a trip, of course, but piece by piece, things will start to shift your perspective in the way that you see things. I feel like my whole life I've kind of felt lonely in the sense that I always had this understanding and this perception that the people around me and in my life did not have. And the more that I realized it, the more I spoke out. And when I spoke out, it was as if I created this world around myself where the people that used to be in it no longer existed on the same train of thought. So when we talk about frequency, we talk about how it's like a radio. You're tuning into a certain station. We don't have that obviously anymore in the days of digital streaming, but you would turn into the frequency you wanted to hear. And if there was static, you weren't aligned to the right frequency. You needed to turn in to hear the music that you wanted to. So the frequency that I started to turn into or tune into, the people around me weren't. And little by little, I started to feel very lonely. I felt as though something was wrong with me, that I didn't understand the world in the same way everyone else did anymore, and that I must be crazy or that I didn't have my life together. When I was younger, I was told by my parents that I purposely tried to isolate myself. So this made the situation further confusing for me. I didn't know how to take it. I was thinking, maybe you are doing this to yourself. Maybe you just like being alone. And I think that's something that we can get confused when we're going on this path, that it's something within us that's not right, when it's really the world around us. And when you start to debunk things and, break down the walls of what's truly going on in your world, it can be hard to separate yourself. Because everything that's happened to you, your environment, the people around you have become part of this identity, this avatar that you've lived in your entire life. And when you realize that you're only the body, your body is the vehicle, and the spiritual form inside of you no longer wishes to play a character anymore, it becomes really confusing. So I've repeatedly learned this lesson over the years, especially in friendships, especially with family, where I would come to, these epiphanies, these realizations that I didn't want to deal with life in the way that it was being run anymore. I didn't like the way I was being spoken to. I didn't like silencing myself. I didn't like feeling like there was something wrong with speaking out against something that I saw just was not right. And I think I talked about this in a reel before, that getting put out at 16 was the best thing that could have happened to me. Back then, I didn't view it as that. I viewed it as I was the bad child. I was the one who should have just stayed silent, and stayed complacent with the life that I had. And I would have just been able to blend in just like everybody else, and everything would have been fine. But I also realized that I would not have gotten to the place I'm in today had I just gone along with everything that was being taught to me. As far as friendships go, that's a really hard thing because we develop friendships as a means of protection for ourselves. I think a lot of it surrounds community, but it's also like a way of self-preservation, having people around you who make you feel good, who usually agree with the things in your life that you have going on. And even if you don't agree, you feel protected and safe within a community with like-minded people. And when I first started finding out things on my spiritual journey, like for example, like the Mandela effect, I scared my friends. Like I was so amazed that there was like this world underneath another one that no one could see. And when I tried to bring it to them, they were just like, nah, you're doing too much. Like you need to calm down. How do you know that's not a scam? How do you know it's not conspiracy? It was really hard for me because I enjoyed learning about the unknown, about things that I didn't know, things that I didn't know were going on. And to try to bond with someone who you've grown up with, to try to get them like to relate to this path you're on, it's like you're being forced on this path of ascension. And when you're on this path, you have to let go. So I love giving analogies. Let's think about it like this. You're on a journey, and on your journey, you brought this backpack. It has your water, it has your favorite stuffed animal, it has pictures and photos of everyone you've ever known. It has all these memories and all this baggage, and you bring it because you feel like it's essential to you. But the longer and longer you go on this journey, you start to encounter different obstacles and challenges along your way, and this heavy bag is keeping you from getting there as fast as you could or as effortless as you could. And all these things you feel are so important to you that you just have to hold on to them. And then you realize when you put the bag down or you release a few things from the bag, it becomes lighter and the journey becomes easier. But it's hard letting go because we have this notion in our head that we have to hold on to things forever. That if we don't, that we're in some way a bad person, or, we're in this state of toxicity where we're just pushing people away. And it's not that. We're not all meant to run at the same pace. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you'll find along your spiritual journey that people that you've associated with your entire life that you might love dearly may not be on the same path as you. And if you slow yourself down for other people, you're not living out your truth and being true to yourself. And it's completely okay. I know that's hard to say. It was hard for me to accept. It's still hard for me to accept that, people that I love, I don't necessarily owe them anything but to be true to myself. Because if we love each other unconditionally, we wish each other well on our path no matter where we're going. I think a lot of us, at least the audience that I'm speaking to, is at an age where we're too old to be cutting off friendships, for petty reasons. If we're stopping things, it's because it does not benefit our journey anymore. When you finish a certain part of life, you say goodbye to it because you've learned what you needed to from the lesson. And through learning how to be lonely, I've learned that not everything has to be like a bad thing. Not everything has to be, well, I don't like you anymore and I don't mess with you and I don't want to hang out with you. It can be more in a sense of you've served this purpose in my journey as I have served my part in yours. And so we choose to part ways beneficially or mutually. And, I know it's not always as easy as it sounds. It can be very hurtful, especially when, people don't understand each other. And, to one person, it looks like one person's being crazy and the other one's being too sensitive, and you just don't know how to balance any of that. But saying goodbye to certain parts of our lives allows new parts to come in. And loneliness is the act of learning how to stand alone, to stand in independent thought, to know who you are. And we make so many parts of our lives the definition of who we are rather than just being. Like for me, for example, I could say I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I'm a content creator and that's all that I am. When that's not the case, that's just a part of my avatar right now and who I am. And I'm not holding on to these ideas like I have to be this person in order to be all of my essence. I just am. It can be a beautiful thing to transition into new phases of your life, but to leave parts behind, it's not as though they never existed and they're not there anymore. It's just that we need to learn to be okay with lightening our load. And this is a season right now that we're in where a lot of people are going through hibernation mode, transition mode, mulling over things that have happened over the course of this past year and how they're going to transition into the new part of the year. We're about to hit New Year's soon, and I know, at least according to the Gregorian calendar, and I know a lot of people, at least in America, they have this idea that, when the new year hits, they have to embrace all these new ideas. But why not start today? Start to redefine what loneliness means to you. If you feel loneliness because you're not around other people, that may be a sign that it's time for you to feel more fulfilled in self. If you feel that it's very hard for you to make decisions on your own without looking to other people, it may be time to start trusting yourself. If you find it hard to learn how to enjoy time with just you, it may be time for more self-focus. So, I know it can be rough out there. Figuring out who you are, figuring out a new path, a new journey, who should be in your life, who shouldn't. Only you can determine that. And you have to determine not just what feels good for you, but what is helping your growth. What is helping bring you into the next phase of your life, and then learning to be okay with walking away from things that no longer serve you. Whether that be love, whether that be friendship, whether that be career. We don't have to hold on to things forever. We're constantly dying every single day, and by that I mean we are experiencing a death. We are going to sleep to be renewed again and woken up with new ideas, with new passions, with, new desires. And in order to get to, these next steps of ascension, you can't keep looking behind at what you lost. You have to constantly be looking forward, look at how you can get to these next steps, what you need to let go of, what you should focus on. And when you do that enough, it starts to become natural. It doesn't become like this calculated thought like, okay, I got to lose her. I got to lose him. I got to only focus on work. I only do this. It becomes natural because your body becomes in sync with the spiritual mindset. And the spiritual mindset is going to pull towards any vibration that brings it higher to that frequency it needs to be at. But anything lower than that, it's going to set right back to where it started off as. So it's kind of like the same with manifestation. You can't attract anything into your life if you don't match that frequency. And sometimes in friendships, we don't match each other's frequency anymore. And the reason that we're still aligned with each other is because we have not yet learned, okay, this is not where I am anymore. Being able to recognize that, I think, is like the number one step in being able to move forward into the next steps of your life. And I can speak from experience, and I was talking to my husband about this earlier too. It's really hard because childhood is where we develop like some of our most intimate friendships a lot of times. And the child mindset is like the kind where we soak in everything. And that's where our identity starts to develop of who we're going to become. And because these memories are so strong and so vivid, we don't know how to detach ourselves from them. Hence why a lot of us are still around, family members who we define as toxic now, because we see that where they are vibrationally is not where we wish to be anymore. But because they're family, we stay around, or because we've been friends with them for so long, we feel like we owe them something. But again, the only thing we owe to ourselves is to stay true. So, I felt the need to speak on that today, not just from personal experience, but because I know that the journey can be rough. And at this point, with so many people waking up to their existence and what's going on in the world right now, and figuring out how they maneuver through these really hard feelings, I want you to remember that through loneliness there is fulfillment, there is light. It is dark. There are two sides to everything. When you're in the dark alone, all you look around is like, oh, there's nobody around. But then you realize I am everything, so I'm never really alone. And it's not from like a narcissistic background. We are a part of each other no matter where we go. Even if I choose to end a part of my journey with someone else, that just means that I learned what I needed from them, and we will always be connected on some sort of level. If my vibration, if my frequency, if my everything, my being is connected to every single piece of the journey, then I'm never really losing out. I'm never really saying goodbye. I'm just saying that, this part of my life remains over here and this one remains over here. But we will always be connected no matter what. This is why we have to go through so many trials and tribulations when it comes to relationships in our lives. Because we have to realize the ever-evolving cyclical nature of life, for things to die and be reborn again, for, the same people to come in and out of our life throughout lifetimes and wonder why things feel so familiar, because we've done it before. We've lived these lives before. And we're just here to learn so we don't repeat the same things over and over again. So I hope this information helped, Please reach out if you ever feel lost on your journey. I love to speak to people about my own personal experience, because I think people learn best from each other. I don't think that everybody lives the same life or goes through the same things, but I think we do sometimes. And I think that's okay to express, because we all learn from each other. We are each other's teachers, and we are our own teacher. And I believe at the end of life, most of us will come to find that we are not only the student, but also the teacher when it comes to learning anything about the spirit and the way that we take form in this particular lifetime. So I want to go out with another ring of the bowl just to kind of bring us back to center. We're going to breathe, and then I will send you on your way for the day. So let's take a deep breath. A little staggered for me. I got a little passionate talk. Let's bring it back in. Relax your shoulders. Relax your forehead. Relax your chin. And we're going to ring the bowl. I want you to feel this vibration in your body no matter where you are. You are everything you need and more. You are everything you need and more. In loneliness, there is wholeness. In loneliness, there is wholeness. For every ending, there's a new beginning. For every ending, there's a new beginning. So, just want you all to know that you are a being of light. And you are being divinely guided through this time. Through each challenge that you encounter, a beautiful lesson awaits. And we're going to keep repeating these cycles until we get to a point where we just see who we are and what we are. This path in life is beautiful, and we're here to live it. So, as always, let love lead the way.